today what we want to talk about is the importance of professional development, and even more so, the importance of conducting needs assessment to determine what your professional development needs are and what your programs need to be. As you can see, look at the 3 poll questions quickly. You can see that only a very few of you have actually conducted a needs assessment. Very few of you have really used them to drive what it is you're looking at, and basically none of you have used it to try to fund your activities. So hopefully today we'll give you some ideas to look at and some thoughts to move forward on. So Lee, if you want to remove those poll questions. And as Lee does that, you'll see that right under the polls are where you can send in any questions that you have. We will attempt for the panelists to respond to your questions. You will find, hopefully, that as we talk, we'll respond to many of the questions that you might have as you go through this. So we'll work on that and see. But also, at the end of the panel discussion today, we'll be taking your questions that you send in that we didn't get a chance to respond to, and we'll be coming up with some responses to those and sending those to all of you electronically, so you'll have those responses as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started and move forward. The first question for our panelists is, why did you feel that conducting a needs assessment was valuable on your own campuses? And we've got a few ideas that they've already come forward with. So Andrew, I'm going to start with you.
Thanks, Charlie. Probably the most important aspect of the needs assessment on my campus was that it got buy-in from almost all of my stakeholders. That up until that point, our faculty and staff advisors had never really been asked what kind of resources, what kind of training, and what kind of approaches they would want around the advising experience. So it was a great opportunity for me to go out and gather this data and gather some approaches that I could then implement and get some more focus on advising across campus.
I think that's a really good point, Andrew, that unintended outcome of the buy-in is so important in addition to finding out the information, because building that culture is really important. Julie, what about you in Arizona in your college?
Well, we use needs assessment to determine the kinds of information that our advisors needed in order to feel confident working with their students. We want everybody to feel comfortable addressing the range of issues that an advisor sees in their office, and so I wanted to make sure that the professional development I was offering met their needs. The other piece that really helped me was not just driving the program content, but also the delivery method that I use to provide that information to our advisors. We all know advisors are busy people, and so on some campuses, a day-long program where everybody gets away from their desk is the best way to go. Other times, shorter programs or podcasts or written manuals are a better way, and so through the needs assessment, I was able to determine what methods were best to use.
And Julie, that's an excellent point, because so many times the way we deliver professional development is just as important as the content that we have within those sessions. So really good idea there. Nora, what about at Louisville?
Well, some of the same things that Julie and Andrew have said, but it's really the only way that I know. This my entire job is professional development, and so it's the only way I know what the administration, the advisors, and the students expect and need out of that program development. Also, I'm always being asked for data, hard data. Show me the data. So rather than hearsay or anecdotal data, I'm able to collect actually hard data and set some baselines as well.
Good. Andrew, I know baseline was an important factor for you too, since this was the very first time that a needs assessment had been done at Idaho. Can you talk a little bit about that baseline benefit to you on your campus when you did this?
Sure, absolutely. What we use the data for is to create baselines that we hope will eventually become included in the promotion and tenure process. So our needs assessment was administered in conjunction with a student satisfaction survey of advising, And that satisfaction survey is designed to identify areas of greatest concern and greatest need, and then the needs assessment is to create resources to fill those needs. So after we've established this baseline, we can then continue gathering data throughout the years, and hopefully this will be used to change our funding, and we'll talk about that later on in this panel.
Very good. I think having the baseline from both the advisors, the faculty, but also the students really does give you a strong point to build on and go with. Very, very good. Okay, let's look at the second question that we want to talk about, and that is, how did you actually conduct the needs assessment on your campus? Andrew, we're going to start with you this time because yours was a very formal process that you used. So I want to go show the people kind of a screenshot of your actual form you used, and then have you talk a few moments about that.
Great. So what we did, as I said, we submitted this in conjunction. We married it to a student satisfaction of advising survey. We administered them both electronically. So in cooperation with our student government, we appealed to the students to respond to the satisfaction survey. And then I got support from the Vice Provost for Academic Affairs as well as the Provost in emailing reminders and links to this survey to all faculty and staff members who are identified.
I think Andrew's frozen, so that's okay. He'll come back in just a second. Let's go ahead, Julie, and let you talk a few moments about what you did at Arizona State.
Sure. Here at ASU in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, we've used a much more informal needs assessment model, and it's really been ongoing, and it's continuous. We use a variety of methods. I meet with our advisors every month, and so just listening to their questions, the concerns they might have about new policies, things that are coming up, is fodder for the professional development that we'll provide. I also have a professional development committee, so working with those advisors, they are in tune with what their needs are and their colleagues more closely on the ground, so they are giving ideas all the time. Every program that I do, the example on this slide shows you the evaluation form that I use for a Lunch and Learn program. Every program evaluation includes a question on what do you need? What should our next program be? What would be useful to you? And so that has really driven a lot of the programming that I've done for our advisors. And then, of course, through the stakeholders as well, talking with them, emails that I get, discussions with the chairs and directors of the units where the advisors work, needs that they're seeing, has also driven the types of professional development opportunities and the delivery methods that I've used to reach the advisors across campus.
Very good. I think one of the things that you brought up very clearly is that there's so many different methods of doing professional needs assessment that can be very formal, can be very informal, but also continuing with every type of activity you do. Andrew, welcome back. We're glad you're back with us. We have your voice, we have your face, we don't have your voice yet. So check your audio wizard, and we'll move to Nora and have her talk a little bit about what you've done at Louisville.
Well, I use a lot of methods. I use qualitative and quantitative, formal and informal. I've done a needs assessment with the professional advisors, and we've also done a baseline study with the professional advisors to see what other types of responsibilities they have, levels of education, all of that. And then we also do the ongoing event evaluations as well. I've done focus groups and interviews with students and with faculty. We've done debriefings with advisors after we've had events or trainings. So I use all of that, and I have to produce formal reports. But this is just one example, this slide, of the event evaluations that we have after one of our in-service. So I like to see if not only did they gain more knowledge from the event, but are they going to use it in their daily practice.
I really like that, Nora, the aspect of are you actually going to use it? because I think many times we provide professional development to advisors, whether they be professional or peer or faculty, but do they actually use the things we've talked about is another piece of that. And actually having them respond to that question, hopefully when they leave, they've thought about what they've said there and how they can start using it. So really good point there. Andrew, let's check and see if we've got your sound back. Wonderful. So. We can hear you. I'm going to go back quickly to your formal form, Andrew, and let you just say a few more words about how this very formal needs assessment, why you chose this format specifically for Idaho.
Okay, thank you. I don't know where I froze, so I will not repeat everything that I had said. Basically, we designed the instrument around the UNESCO advisor responsibilities and what NACADA has identified as its core themes. So what we wanted to do was test campus-wide kind of approaches and values to advising. Then we used the online format to reach the broadest possible audience. We have faculty members who advise at a number of satellite campuses, and we wanted to make sure to gather information about that need as well as our home campus individuals.
I like the fact that you built that very first needs assessment around the NACADA core values, around those issues that we know as administrators that advisors need to be aware of, but many times advisors themselves won't know what those are. So it was almost a teaching tool as well as a professional development and needs assessment tool. And I think that's one of the things all three of you have responded to, is the fact that whether formal or informal, however you do it, it really becomes an aspect to build that culture and teach, as well as find out what people need to know within that. So really good idea. Let's move to the third question that we have, and that is, have you used needs assessment to drive funding requests? We all know in this day and time that funding and financial issues on our campuses are becoming tighter and tighter. So trying to find ways to fund professional development, trying to find ways to purchase NACADA information or NACADA material, as well as just to bring people together, isn't always easy. So I think the aspect of using needs assessment as a way to have some baseline, back to that word, to ask for funding is important. So let's spend a few minutes talking about how each of you have done that. Nora, what about at Louisville?
Well, I depend on it. So I have to submit a report every year, a year-end report that shows how many people have attended, the evaluations for it, and what the product of the needs assessment were. So I have to submit that, and we have to submit that with our budget every year. We've also used it to request funding for technology, whether it's hardware or software that we need or that the students would like to have. And I also use it to show how what we're doing supports the mission of advising and the university's mission as well, so that they will have ongoing funding. So it supports the initiatives that the state has handed down and the institution has as well.
Very good. Can you talk a moment about some of the technology that you've been able to use needs assessment to help fund? Because I know at Louisville y'all have really gotten into how to use technology with both the students and the advisors.
Yeah, well, we've purchased some software. We've upgraded our student record system, the PeopleSoft system. We've added a periodic component to it. We've also purchased a note-taking system, but we were able also to get funding for a full-time position to maintain those systems as well, because we found out very early on that our IT department couldn't maintain all the systems that we needed. So that's just one way we've used our assessments and our interviews and focus groups to get funding for technology.
Outstanding, Nora, because I think one of the things that we tend to forget is we can get all of the software, we can get the hardware, but trying to work through an already overloaded IT area to get what we need for advising pretty much is just gets us on the impossible track. So the fact that you've actually used a needs assessment to be able to communicate to your provost, to your president, and to your advising community or campus-wide community as a whole, the need for this technology position, I think, is an outstanding use of needs assessment. It gave you and Janet the opportunity to go in and say, this is why we need, not we sure do wish we had somebody. And that makes a huge difference there. Really good. Can you talk just a moment about your food for thought sessions? Because I know that's something else that you funded through your needs assessment ideas.
Right. We have these about 3 times a semester usually, and we put out a poll. I have 2 advisory committees. That's another way I get information. I have a professional advisor committee and then a faculty advisor, and we ask them about content and delivery. So this is one of the examples. This is a lunch and learn. We call it food for thought, and these are just some of the examples of the content that have come out of what the advisors wanted to see, dealing with particular student populations, but also crisis planning intervention, some different cultural competency trainings. So, and then the faculty advisors, we're getting ready to start some things for them as well because their roles can vary a little bit. So the faculty, they prefer a more online version rather than the in-person. Now we are going to have some in-person lunch and learns at faculty food for thought, but they do, as far as the training and development, online is much easier for them.
So do I understand you to say that you're getting ready to do a needs assessment, particularly of faculty?
Yes, we're getting ready to launch that.
And why did you choose to do one just for faculty compared to professional advisors? What did you think? What was your reason for that?
Well, the way we're set up here at the University of Louisville, their governance are different. We have 8 different professional advising centers that all have different reporting lines, and then the faculty are governed by themselves. And students, the faculty may not get the students until their 2nd or 3rd year, so their roles can be quite different from that of professional advisors, and the expectations, and also the caseloads. So they each have slightly different needs, and some of them are the same, so we can put them together for those, but I want to be sure that I hit all the needs.
Outstanding, Nora, because I think one of the things that you're communicating is that we need to look at needs assessment to determine what are the differing needs of the different types of advisors, and then as Julie said earlier on, what's the best way to deliver those based on your population. I would also imagine that's done a great job of communicating to faculty the interest of your office specifically for their needs, not just the professional advisor needs within that. So congratulations on a really good idea and moving forward. Julie, why don't we talk a little bit about what you're doing at Arizona State?
Well, we've used the needs assessment to continue support for the symposium that we're doing every year. That is a day-long event where our advisors can submit proposals to present on their own areas. It's kind of a practice for going to a NACADA conference. And so the continued success of that and the responses that we've gotten allowed me to go to our associate dean and request continued funding for that program at an off-campus location and a hot lunch for everybody. So that is one way that we've used this needs assessment to drive funding requests. Also, just for more everyday resources, the success of the Lunch and Learn series, where I had borrowed NACADA DVDs to show to the staff for discussion. The success of that and the response I got allowed me to go and request funds to purchase those for myself. So I use the needs assessment to plan my year and make my annual budget to submit, and it's allowed me to do a variety of different programs, which you can see listed there on the slide.
That is awesome, Julie, because I think one of the things you're clearly communicating is your funding requests are going to be listened to and taken so much more seriously when you can show through needs assessment and through evaluation what you really actually need to have for your colleagues, for your campus, for your advisors. Really outstanding ideas there. Andrew, I know you've done several things at University of Idaho. Let's talk about those.
Thanks. So we have some similar brown bags that we offer for ongoing professional development. And then like Nora, something I identified from the needs assessment is that we desperately needed a uniform web presence around advising that would be a single repository for resources and templates to help advisors, both faculty and staff. So I went to my vice provost and argued to get basically a salary line to hire a web coordinator to design our website,
wow,
which was one of the biggest initiatives I was able to accomplish. We also have an annual symposium, and our vice provost has agreed in perpetuity to subsidize the lunch for everybody because it's considered part of new faculty orientation, and it's considered the major professional development annual event for our faculty and staff advisors. Which unfortunately means that I can't spring for lunch for the brown bags. We make people bring their own, but they seem not to care too much.
So, in other words, your associate provost can never retire, right? Since she's going to fund you for life.
Yeah, knock wood. Yes.
Very good.
The other thing I should comment on with this question is we also gathered data in the needs assessment about individuals who are advising on campus but who are not being compensated for it. That kind of hidden in our needs assessment was we ferreted out those people who identify themselves as advising a population but also identify zero compensation in their job description. And so part of what I'm attempting to do is to make sure that those people are appropriately compensated for the advising that they actually do on a daily basis.
Wow, what a great use of that formal tool you did, whereas many people on campus will have assumed that was only to find out what the content needs were, but you were actually having all of these unintended outcomes that was so valuable. That's outstanding. Nora, we have a question about your IT person that was funded, and Andrew, it's probably the same type of question to you. Was this position dedicated out of the technology office funding line, general university, or were you actually given a new line within just your office with funding for that position?
We were given a new line within our office where the undergraduate advisor bracket, excuse me, ooh, getting choked up. Makes me so happy we have him. No, they gave us a new line for our office, and he does handle the technology, though, for all of those units. So he has a university-wide role.
Good. Andrew, what about your web person? Is that primarily just for you or for the campus advising, but reporting through you and the funding through you?
It is. It's a position through academic affairs, so it's a general web coordinator through academic affairs. But I was given exclusive use of his time for about 7 months.
That is awesome.
So it was a significant contribution.
It was awesome. Julie Galloway sent that question, and Julie, thank you for that, because I know one of the things all campuses are looking at is how do we identify technology and how do we work within that. And I'll give you just a brief look. This is the website that Andrew talked about, getting that person exclusively for 7 months to be able to develop and work on. And Andrew, it looks pretty impressive from my side with that. It looks like something that both advisors and students can utilize as they're working on campus. Am I correct there?
That is correct.
Andrew?
Those were our two audiences, and primarily our audience was advisors. Did you lose me again?
Okay, great. Good.
Hello?
Just briefly, just for a second. All right, let's move. We've got a few minutes left. Let's move to our last question, and that is, do you plan to use needs assessment processes in the future? I think we know the answer to that already from hearing you all talk about how valuable it is. But how often, and then what do you see as new ways of possibly using these assessments in the future? So I'm going to turn it over, and Julie, let you respond to that.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to be continuing to use needs assessment as we go forward. And just from participating in this webinar, I think I'm going to do something a little more formal based on what I've been learning, because I think that could really help me out, especially because at ASU we are getting a lot of new young advisors who are very interested in NACADA. They are very familiar with this, and I'm going to need to provide them with the support and training and development to keep them interested in advising and keep them interested in working at ASU. And so to be able to provide that, to show that these are staff members who are worthy of that investment at the university level, is something I'm going to need to provide some more hard data for.
Julie, that's outstanding, because I think one of the things you point out is we are seeing multi-generational advisors. So how do we provide advising professional development to very seasoned advisors as well as very brand new advisors? But I really like your point of using needs assessment professional development to keep our new advisors, our new generation of advisors in the field and excited about advising. Because we know on many campuses, advisors come in, they learn the job, and they're quickly picked up by other units on campus because of their knowledge. And so this is a great way. Nora, what about at Louisville? How do you see using, continued the use of needs assessment?
Well, we're getting ready to, like I said before, launch the faculty needs assessment. And we'll alternate between years between faculty, professional advisors, and then student expectations. Same thing with focus groups. I plan to do at least one focus group a year and alternate that. And now just talking to you all, I've had some requests from some of our advisors that are digital immigrants to do some technology training. So I'm thinking about sending something out about that, about what level they're each at, get some more baseline data about the technology from each of our advisors.
Nice. I think one of the things you and Julie are pointing out is how valuable these types of panel discussions can be for us all sharing ideas, not just the participants, but those of us involved in it as well. Andrew, what about it at Idaho? And Andrew, I have a question first. Linda Hapsmith wondered, how many days is your advising symposium at the University of Idaho?
It's a one-day event. Yeah, it's much like Julie's. It's a one-day event. Although we encourage proposals from our regional partners and accept proposals from around our area. To address the question of what I'm going to do with needs assessment, I'm going to re-administer the same instrument every other year. And while I'm in the process of re-administering the instrument, my intention is to do a wide publicity blitz around all of the resources that have been created from the data gathered 2 years prior.
Nice.
So my hope is that I can kind of re-energize the campus around advising every other year and then continue to provide support and trainings that will then be highlighted when we submit the next needs assessment.
Very good. And I think you brought up an excellent point that Nora hit on as well as Julie, and that is the importance of reporting back out what you find on needs assessments to the advising community and to the administration, but even more importantly, how you've used it, how it's benefited the campus, and where you want to go next. What you're doing is building that culture and building that aspect.
Exactly.
We've got a couple of questions that we'll have a few minutes time for. Patricia Gallagher is saying, is advising one of those formal areas that on your campuses, faculty are expected to submit information for their tenure and promotion information? Is that yet on your campus, Nora? We'll start with you.
No, it's not, unfortunately. It's considered basically outside of all of it, the service, the teaching, the research, because we're kind of trying to achieve a research one. So right now it's not counted toward their tenure or their work plans.
Very good. Not very good that it's not, but very good for your answer. But hopefully that faculty needs assessment you do might, as Andrew said, give some information on what might be used in the future within that.
Right.
Andrew, you've got a great deal of faculty advising. Has that hit tenure and promotion yet for your campus?
It really depends on the department. Some of our departments are very concerned about advising, and they expect it in the P&T packet. By and large, it is not a consideration for promotion and tenure. However, that is something that I'm trying to influence, because I'm trying to incorporate advising under the teaching expectation, and then try and facilitate the advising as part of the teaching portfolio in P&T.
Great. Good. Julie, I know there's not a lot of faculty at ASU particularly involved in advising, but when there is a faculty member who does, can they utilize that on your campus?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
We have a couple of questions, but we're out of time. The goal for these panel discussions was to be 30 minutes. That was my alarm going off to tell me we've now been 30 minutes and have that. The couple of questions we have left, which the panelists will respond to and we'll send out in writing to all of you, was we are beginning our first ongoing professional development program. What first steps would you recommend we take? I think we know one of those answers would be conduct a needs assessment to do that. And then secondly, what would you consider a good response rate to these formal needs assessment measures that you've used? And we'll get responses out to everyone on those. Once again, Nora and Julie and Andrew, thank you so much for being a part of this. It's really exciting to have people from Kentucky and Arizona and Idaho all bring those different perspectives to us. We really want to thank all the participants who are with us today. I think we have about 30, and that's a wonderful first-time turnout, and we're thrilled with that. And then I want to take just a moment to officially thank Lee Cunningham and Michelle and Gary in the executive office for the work they do with this as well. And then behind the scenes, Marsha Miller's picking up every time someone's connection goes down in some way. Marsha's quick there to pick it up. So thank you all. We appreciate you being with us, and thank you for being a part of today's event. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.